right? So, and she would bring the newborn child of that day, all the children newborn of that day, so one by one she would put the child on Baba's lap, and Baba would play with it and caress it, and then give it back to the nurse, and she would go. Now, she didn't know anything about Baba. We couldn't imagine what instinct, what prompted her to do that, because it was such a blessing for the little one that to be in Baba's lap, to be touched by Baba. I mean, what real service that nurse did to her little charges. We could know, but we couldn't imagine how she would know. So, and now, yes, and now another. They were puzzled. Everything we did was very puzzling. I mean, this Baba's presence was puzzling. They knew that he was. They felt happiness in just his presence. They could feel Baba's divinity without being told about it, and they dare not even ask, but they did everything as if they knew who Baba was. And one of the puzzling things was that, you see, we lived a very simple life. It had to be very economical in those days. I mean, our beddings would be meager, the blankets would be patched, pillowcases would be a very coarse cloth, and all that sort of economy. And o que tu dizes? So? Nee, het ook zo is man. So here we were, and Baba had Chanji as the one going in between the doctors and himself to tell them that they should not stint. They should get any medicine that was needed, any expensive doctor's fees or expenses, medical expenses were not to be spared in the least, and that because there were no antibiotics in those days, and it was very dangerous. But in fact, some of the nurses put a little Bible under my pillow because they thought, oh, Mani is going to die, and that to say. But while all that was being done, when no expense was spared, yet those nurses would see that the cups that Naja and I were drinking in, that we had brought from home, the handle was broken, the saucer was cracked, the spoon was bent, the tiffin carrier had, instead of a clasp, a safety pin on it. Is it all right? Had a safety pin on it. Our sheet had patches on it, and it was most extraordinary. We were like poor tramps in everything else we had. Our clothes were very well donned and all that sort of thing. And yet here, we were spending money on medicines which none of the other patients would think of, because they said, but this, yes, we can get this, but this would cost us like anything. And Baba said, go ahead. And another thing is, of course, Baba's way of repetition of something, or he would tell Chanji, go tell the doctors, is this injections all right? Shouldn't she be given this? So Chanji had to go and ferret out those doctors, and they would say, yes, it's all right, but if you want, you can give her this, but it's better to give her this, it's not necessary. So Chanji would come back and tell Baba. In 10 minutes, Baba said, no, you go back and ask them that instead of calcium, shouldn't it be this? And so poor Chanji had to pester those doctors. In the end, I could see that when those doctors left their cottages, they first looked around, is that man around? And then Chanji from this block of the hospital building would look quietly as to say which side they're coming on. They'd think, oh, that man is nowhere around. Once they were out in the open, out would pop Chanji from this wall. Immediately we'd see they'd take a roundabout turn and pretend they were coming on that side. Chanji knew the tactics, so Chanji would run this side of the block, and before they knew that he'd be right in front of them, and they had to answer. He knew that they were being, feeling uncomfortable, and he felt so embarrassed, but this is Baba's way, back and forth he did it. But I was 17 then. This was in 1936, and of course Naja was with me, but the Mehera, Khorshid, Kaku, Masi, Valu, and the other women who were at home, They were doing a lot of things behind the scenes. They had to manage all the cooking by themselves, and Baba's washing Baba's clothes and their own things, and doing things for me. My clothes would be sent there to be washed, ironed, and all that sort of thing. Then later, Baba, when I was quite well and there were only a few days left in hospital, Baba would come only once, and in the last few days he did not come at all. And then the nurses were really frantic, running around, when is Baba coming? Why isn't Baba not coming? And then Baba would send in the afternoons either Kaku or Masi. Those were the gatekeepers at Meherabad, up on the hill when we were staying up on the hill at Meherabad at the time when we left for Mysore. And so Kaku also at Masi also had come to Mysore. So Kaku was told by Baba to relieve Naja for a little while. She was in Vishnu Master's mother of Vishnu Master. And she was quite oldish, an elderly person. And she had to come and relieve Naja, because the Naja could go home sometimes for the afternoon. So Kaku would come in, and I was just about getting up from bed and walking about a little, but still I would be tired. Then Kaku would come and in a loud voice, very genial, how are you, Mani? Everything fine, all that? And then she must have been so tired doing the housework at home, so she'd come and sit on my bed, and then before I knew, she was flat on my bed and snoring, and here was I on the chair wondering when she would get up, because I was so tired sitting on the chair. And after a while, Kaku would get up, and and all the nurses would come around. I mean, everybody loved Kaku. Kaku was like that. And she would make pan, which is that beetle leaf that everybody loves. She would make for all the nurses, and she would give one to each. And then when I came home, I told Baba about Kaku sleeping on the bed, and Baba teased her, and it was very lovely. But we used to play badminton there too, in the compound. In Mysore also, where the bungalow was, wherever we went, there would be, the compound would have an enclosure of that palm leaf thing, bamboo matting. So that was covered, but it was a big grounds left space inside the courtyard, which was enclosed by the matting. There was enough ground there, and Baba loved sport and exercise, so he used to play badminton with us, just like he used to do up on the hill at Meherabad. I think it's somebody else's turn now. Mehera will say something now.
When in USA in 1952, when we were traveling from the Meher Center on the lake, Elizabeth was driving the car, and Baba was in the front seat, Mani, Meheru and myself were in the back seat. And after traveling for some days, we were going to California, and Baba one day told Elizabeth to drive fast, so she drove the car fast. Then Baba said, still fast, faster, Baba said, more fast. And so Elizabeth drove the car faster, and Baba would still say, still faster, like this. So Elizabeth, she was touching 90, and it was rather dangerous like that, but yet Baba would tell her, and so she did. Now it happened that when this accident happened, the one experience I'm going to tell you is about myself, is when this accident happened, it was Baba's grace that I did not know how this happened. Because when it actually happened, I see that a car has bumped into a car, and I had a jerk. So having a jerk, I hit my head. This is what is actually a vision I see. At the time of the accident or soon after, I don't know. But it must be at the time of the accident, because I did not know how the accident happened. So our car has bumped into another car has bumped into our car, and we get a jerk, and so my head is hit. So I put my hand to my head. So Baba turns round, he's seated in the front seat, and Baba turns round, asks me, are you hurt, Mehera? Are you hurt? He's turning round and asking me. So I to that Baba should not worry. I tell Baba that, no Baba, it's not much, very slight, no Baba, I'm not hurt, no Baba, there's nothing to worry about. And so I'm putting my hand on my forehead trying to hide the spot. And Baba said, but are you hurt? I said, no Baba, not much at all Baba, no Baba. And so Baba's asking, Mani, is she hurt? And that much I see. And after that I was unconscious so much that then after I didn't see this vision, but I was safe from concussion scenes because the doctors were very surprised because my head was very badly hurt. That they say it would have been concussion. But
Concussion body was fractured.
No, not in the head. Concussion. Well, there was a slight concussion, but I was saved. And but Baba was very seriously hurt. His leg was broken, his arm was broken.
But Baba said it was a miracle that you
Though Baba was thrown out of the car and he was very seriously hurt. Not a groan, not a moan. Baba was so helpless he couldn't break his silence by even groaning. So he silently suffered. And that is because his love for us, for all humanity. He suffered silently, and when Baba was taken to the hospital, even the doctors were surprised and wanted to know who Baba was, because they couldn't believe with so many. I mean, his leg was completely.
He was having so much suffering.
The bone was broken. It was not a slight fracture. It was completely broken leg at the shin bone, and his hand was fractured. His nose was also very badly hurt. It was broken, and Baba was lying in blood. Baba said his blood would be shed on American soil. He had said that many years before, and we had all forgotten about it. But when this accident happened, we remembered. And so, and then when we were in Yupon Dunes, after Baba it was very hot there. It was summer and it was a heat wave, and Baba was so uncomfortable with the plaster on his foot. They all tried to help Baba, but it was very uncomfortable for him. He would feel itch under the plaster, and of course he couldn't talk, and now he couldn't walk also, and he was looking so helpless. And Elizabeth then sent for air condition, had the room air conditioned, and Baba was somewhat comfortable. And after a month,
when the plaster was removed.
After a month or so, when the plaster was removed and a small plaster was put on his leg, Baba, so sweet, so that we girls had not been out of the house for days. For days we had not been outside any outing or anything. So Baba asked Elizabeth and others if there was any sightseeing, any performance in the town that they should take us girls out. And then Baba being all knowing, he knew there was some kind of performance taking place in the town. So he asked Elizabeth, and they found out, yes, there was a horse show.